I'm 6 days into a 30-day 10K money challenge, and what's becoming very obvious is that it's not about strategy. It has everything to do with what comes up when you commit to something. The intention of this challenge was to step into a field that I have not yet really entered and I have not yet really committed to. The 10K piece definitely is a challenge for me, and the 30-day time constraint for sure. And it's really more about what has to go on to support that. It's about the visibility. It's about the authenticity. It's about the asking and the inviting. It's about making the offers. It's more that direct one-on-one that is really not only uncomfortable for me, but just not what I ever imagined myself doing. So you might think, well, why are you doing it then? That's a really good question. And I will say that the main reason why I was called to do this was because I do see the value of being able to step into my own iteration of selling or sales or inviting. When you're creating an online business, engagement and marketing, all those things are part of the process. And when you're building a high-ticket business that is sometimes comprised of one-on-one, it requires pieces of that. And even though I don't see myself staying in this as the main vehicle of generating and expanding into a 6-7-figure business, I do see the value in moving through it. And what I've come to learn as a social scientist and as somebody who loves to collect data from human behavior and what we observe, and to see our experience from a perspective of not just humans with souls, but souls having a human experience, taking some of the pressure off and recognizing that all of this is just a grand experiment. But the ego wants so much to be in charge, and the ego has all kinds of components that it wants to protect. And that's where all the stories live. That's where all the ideas, the limiting beliefs live. That's where all the rules live. But our spirits really aren't meant to be here to live under those kinds of constraints. But that's where a lot of the internal conflict is. So for me, this was about the opportunity to generate 10K within a constraint. And it was more about the opportunity to take gradual steps to get myself to a place where over time, the charge or the energy or the friction that I feel with these parts starts to dissipate, because that's what happens when there is repetition. We are highly adaptable beings. If we didn't believe that, we all can look back on what happened in 2020 and over the couple of years and beyond. We had to learn how to adapt. We all shifted and changed and became iterations of what we thought was possible for ourselves. I know the power of this transition and this transformation that can occur, and is really always occurring in many ways, even though we're not paying attention to it. One of the most powerful ways that we can watch and pay attention and actually tend to the challenges where we create and find ourselves resisting, and this is where I'm going to share what's been going on for me, is in our nervous system. So our nervous system is talking to us through our body and how we feel in our body all the time. And I feel my nervous system, especially around my solar plexus area, which is really connected to that third chakra, that personal power, which makes a lot of sense. It's also attached to the beliefs, the stories that we've told ourselves, that I've told myself. So for example, I actually appreciate sales. I actually honor when someone comes to me that I already know and have a relationship with. I love connecting people. I love sharing what people are up to. That's never a problem for me. But what I do not like is the cold call, the people reaching out to me, for example, or asking for a connection on LinkedIn, and the very next thing they do is try to sell me something when they don't even know who I am. That does irritate me, and I also do not want to be that. But as you can hear, maybe even in my tone, that charge that's there, I know I have the opportunity and the ability to neutralize that. So I'm on day 6, and I had a meltdown earlier today because really probably fatigue and just the over-engineering that I can do in certain parts, because it's all bubbling up to the surface. And at the same time, I am resisting that reaching out to the individual. I do not have a conclusion for right now. All I know is that it is my absolute intention to stay the course on this and to continue to share every few days what's going on and what I'm learning, I really feel called. So I don't know if it's just some trickery to get around it, but I really feel called to get creative in how I can generate these opportunities, because there was two pieces that I'll mention. I designed a prompt over some time and landed on a prompt that the intention was that it would offer me two options every day. I can do both or one or the other, and that it would grow, the intensity would grow over time. I've taken many steps already. I'm already somebody that posts content every day. I post 3 videos on TikTok every day. I'm sharing things here on YouTube. I'm putting things on Instagram. I'm definitely posting also on LinkedIn. I'm sharing with my email list. So I'm putting things out there, and I am just kind of getting started because it's like a galvanizing thing. I don't think I've ever done it at this level of intensity in this way with this intention, because I haven't done this kind of a thing before. I'm excited. I'm nervously excited to see what can come from this experience and what I can invent. And something that is really present for me that I'll just add and maybe start to close this up is that I feel determined. I love to create and build. And when I experience something that I feel is just has such opportunity, like how sales is done, it seems to be very much this tension that a lot of people can't wrap themselves around because of partially obviously how we created society, but there are several friction points in the sales process, and the people that tend to be really successful at it just move right through that, just get beyond it. It's like brute force. I know there are other ways of doing it. I know there are people that are doing it a different way, but there is that intensity that is there. I'm also really clear that in order for me to create something different, I need to be in it the way that it is, so I get enough experience and data and see what comes through that process. As a mixed race Mexican American woman who grew up in a single income household where scarcity seemed to be the vibration, I am on a mission to shift consciousness and to empower women from the inside out, to become more connected to the awareness of that we are sovereign beings. And that shows up in a myriad of ways. And I always know that I am my first student. I am my first client. That is part of this experiment that I'm on, is to continue to evolve in that process and to continue to place myself in situations that support me in a way that I've controlled the experiment, if you will, to allow me to expand, to allow me to move through the constraints that I've created consciously and unconsciously, so that I can step into more freedom, more experience of my freedom in that way. If you've done a challenge, if you're in the midst of a challenge, if you're relating to anything that I'm sharing, I would love to hear from you in the comments, or stay with me, subscribe to my channel, and I will be sharing more soon.